Hello, buddy. Welcome to Cow Daily. This is Wednesday. I don't even know the date. You'll probably find out why in a minute. I wrote something this morning about bereavement, and quite often people will talk about it like after the fact, like when they're not experiencing its like impact or whatnot. So what I wrote about this morning was the fact that my friend, he died about 3.5 years ago, and out of nowhere last night, I just burst into tears and I cried for like 3 hours. I've had about 2 hours sleep. I mean, this is supposed to be my day off, like where I do office work and stuff. But what I want to do is actually talk about it while it's happening. I don't really see people do that so much, I think, or maybe I've just missed it and people do. Whatever, it's not important. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just turning this on and speaking, and I'm going to upload it, and maybe it'll help people, maybe it won't. I don't know. But this is why I'm here. Obviously, it's dead easy to get up here and paint on a fake smile, isn't it? Quite often, that's how people do the thing, and then they go off and cry privately and all of that. And I think, especially for us as men, I mean, this impacts everybody, but I want to highlight men specifically because I am one. We bury things so much, man, and it's so bloody toxic, to use the phrase, toxic masculinity, whatever you want. I never really knew what that meant until I went through trauma. Because this bereavement's not my first rodeo. It started like maybe I think it was 2010 when my friend hung himself. In that time period since, there was another friend, he got murdered. Lost a friend to cancer. I've lost family members throughout that period too, aunties, uncles. At one time, I had a season ticket for Saltwell Crematorium in Gateshead, like one year. Went there so many times, just never stopped. And I think partly what happened last night and continues to happen right now, because, I've had a couple hours sleep and I could end up just bursting into tears at any point here. But I thought I'd show up because I read all of your comments in the thread. And if I haven't replied to them, don't think that I don't value them. I do. It was just getting heavy going, trying to reply to everybody. So one of the reasons I'm here is this is my reply to everybody. Thank you for your contributions. And what reason I write these things and I'm doing this now is I didn't want you to feel like you're on your own with stuff. I know I'm not, like, based on the responses from yous. And it's why I felt like I needed to be here today and speak on this, like, as a man, because quite often and certainly in Britain, there's this whole like stiff upper lip stoicness. That shit will get you killed. You want to bury this kind of stuff as men, right? Watch what happens to you, and I know this because I did it. And until I accessed counselling, probably it was a year after the first bereavement when my friend hung himself, I was like a stone man. I was like going out drinking and like really, really making a fucking right clip of myself, And a lot of it was down to like just repressing how I felt, like the anger that I felt around the bereavement and the counselling side of it. I mean, it was kind of ironic, really, because I'm a qualified counsellor, and if there's any other counsellors out here, we're really shit at this when it comes to ourselves, aren't we? But we're amazing when it's other people. Like, we're really good at helping others, aren't we? But not the greatest in getting the support supervision and disclosing how we're feeling and all of that stuff. So I think to be authentic in life, you can't just step up when times is good. I think you have to step up when times is hard too, and you have to put an authentic face. I probably can't say past me glasses, but my eyes are like piss holes in the snow from lack of sleep. But the world keeps going on. You see me dog's behind there. I've got this ill dog with a cone of shame on his head there, and his Christmas jumper as well. And I've got to look after them, and the world's got to go on. So I have to keep turning up and doing those things. And I think when all this bereavement cycle stuff started, like 10 years ago and whatever, I as I say, I buried it, but I also I took time off work, but I think it ended up just being like really chaotic because I didn't have as much structure. So I've decided not to do that again and not just put my head under a pillow. So I've turned up and done this because I think I need this. And I'm not saying this is for everybody, and you should always just turn up no matter what. You do you, and you do what you need. But I think I'm not even sure if I need this, but like I feel like it's the right thing to do. So this is why I'm here, like talking about it. There's no real plan. I've got a couple of slides. Just when I want to illustrate something from a theoretical perspective later on. Yeah, I'm not good today, and it's because of being hit like a fucking train wreck last night. By this, just out of nowhere. Um, I was telling my partner actually about how proud I am of Pickers and the lad who comes on the postie. When me, Brian and Pickers were really close. Pickers is as close to Brian as I was, and Brian's that lad who I was talking about who died 3.5 years ago, and he just reminds us of the crack that we used to have, and I think that's like been a bit of a trigger because it's, I suppose, out of sight, out of mind a lot of the times, and sometimes that can be good because it means we can get on and get on with life in some respects. But we should also be really mindful that recovery is not a straight line. There's peaks and there's troughs, and sometimes things can just get you later. I didn't think I was repressing a lot, but I think one of the problems like this far into bereavement, that people don't want to like talk about it anymore. So they've kind of moved on, whereas like you sometimes you haven't. So you get this like bottleneck of emotion and with nowhere to go. I realize I've been getting quite angry lately, and that's often a tell that something's like under the surface. So I just want to kind of explore that because with men, it can be really men, especially like mixed with testosterone and sometimes drink. I mean, I don't drink anymore. I gave up drinking a while ago. One of the reasons was just my own mental health, and I think it's detrimental to it. I don't think I can be as happy as I need to be if I drink alcohol. It's all right when you're doing it. It's just the after bit, and especially with being 45, it takes ages to get over like the hangovers, like not just the physical side, but also the mental side as well. It just proper knocks us just bandy, So the anger side of it, right? I think it's like repeated traumas as well. It's so complex. Like when you're constantly traumatized. Like when I spoke to a counselor, they were like basically said I like had or maybe still have like a form of PTSD, and they likened it to like when somebody goes to war, they just see like repeated trauma, repeated like horror, and eventually it just changes them, I guess. Now, I've not experienced it like of late, like I used to, nowhere close, to be honest. And I'm not even really sure where that's a thing that still like affects us so much. I think and often a tell with that is anxiety and depression symptoms, like ahead of some kind of like mental break or something with the PTSD. And that's just not a feature of my life really anymore because I've like done a lot of things. I've lost 50 pounds in weight. I feel much healthier. My self-confidence as a result is hugely better. I've removed caffeine because that was a problem for anxiety for me. I've stopped drinking, as I've said. I don't smoke shit weed anymore, just the good stuff. But that like take that or leave it. I can't really talk about that on here. But there's just been a lot of changes that I have made. So I really don't think it's anything as deep as like sort of like a trauma response. I think it's just was just ready to come out last night. 3 hours, man. I was just like sniffling into my pillow later on and that. I just couldn't sleep because I was so keyed up. And here I am 2 hours sleep later in it. So you show up for me or like every day. And I just felt like given the responses and the kindness that was shown to us today, which is meant the world to us, I needed to show up for you. And all of yous that I just hadn't got the energy to reply to, like, or the thumb power to reply to by in the written form. So this is me replying to everyone is thank you for giving us a bit of a lift on a shitty ass day. I was going to say dark day, but I don't feel too dark. I feel a bit purged from all of the sort of crying and stuff, and I think it's like been a really healthy thing. So like, you know, if you've got men in your life or you are that man, let it out. Just on a physiological level, right? You like tears have a purpose. It's like you flush your system out of a lot of different hormones and chemicals, but one in particular, the stress hormone, which is cortisol. It's a way to just kick the cortisol out of your system, and it's a really positive thing to let that out. Clearly, there was a lot of cortisol in my system, and I have been under a lot of stress recently as well. And I think that's probably what's like brought this up to the surface as well. The stress being around, you know, obviously I was long-term ill for a long time, as you know, a lot of you know, for a variety of reasons, and all that was going on whilst I was like being repeatedly traumatized through bereavement. So I haven't really spoke about the bereavement side of it very much on as much as I've spoken about the spinal surgery and the sort of long COVID shingles type of thing. And I think probably, especially with the stress factor of it, I think that was probably a factor alongside the sort of viral stuff with why I was like splattered so hard for a year with that kind of viral shingles type thing. That seems to be in my rearview mirror now. I mean, I'm able to get up here and do this. I mean, just on a physical level, I'm able to sit in a seat from the spinal surgery, which I couldn't do for a long time, you know, and able to sit here for a while, able to be productive again. And it's why I don't want to waste it, and why I want to just be here if I can and just build this thing, because I know that it means a lot to use, and it means a lot to me to be able to do this, and you enabled me to be able to do this. I had no plan for this. I'm just talking. Yeah. So yeah, I've got a couple of slides, and I just want to illustrate something. Right, a lot of the times, this is the Kubler-Ross, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross stages of grief cycle that some of you might have heard. Like people have mentioned cruise bereavement, you'll probably get something like this in your welcome pack when you go. I've been to cruise bereavement myself. I went after Brian died. Went for about a year. They gave us a lot more sessions actually, because I'd had so many bereavements in a row. It was quite a complex one, so I got more than the 6 sessions, which I'm very grateful for. So the normal function, as it says at the stage of the grief here, just for the audio files, it says shock and denial, which is obviously when you first find out. Avoidance behaviors, you're confused, you experience fear and numbness, and sometimes blame can start. Yeah, all of them things. And then the downward sort of spiral, as illustrated here, happens. That you transition into anger, frustration, anxiety, irritation. You can feel embarrassment and shame. Like we're sometimes in that stage, we can be quick to like blame ourselves, even though we're not to be blamed. And I have this like horrible like ancestry of Irish Catholicism in one side of my family, and the fucking shame and guilt that's just built into you. I mean, it can just make you believe all kinds of shit. So one of the things that I've tried to do was remove that shit from my soul, never mind my head. And then here it goes on, depression and detachment, and that's, according to Kubler-Ross, the bottom end, where you hit rock bottom in the cycle. You become overwhelmed. She says blahs here, whatever that means, blah, blah, blah. Lack of energy, helplessness, totally. That was all happening for me. Continues to, sometimes we'll come on to that. According to Kubler-Ross, the up cycle will start. So you'll dialogue and bargaining. So you'll start reaching out to others. Your desire to tell your story, struggle to find meaning for what has happened. And then it goes up to acceptance, exploring options, a new plan in place, return to a meaningful life. Hooray! Empowerment, security, self-esteem, and meaning. This theory is all well and good, right? And it can act as a sort of a kind of a guide, right? But in reality, this is what happens. For audio people, on the left is the graph, a version of the graph that I've just read out. On the right it's just lots of squiggly lines with anger, bargaining, denial, acceptance, depression. It's like a bloody merry-go-round or a heat map of a dodgem where you just bang into things. And it'd be lovely if you had the Kubler-Ross map for the territory, and that applied to all, but it just doesn't. And what I found is, like, I would start to like self-analyze too toxically and think I'm really behind here. Why on like onto this next phase and the next phase? The reality is, right, bereavement is very complicated and it's very individual to each one of us. So please, when you see these things or you're given these things, please do take them as what they are, which is a guide, and understand that recovery isn't a straight line. Sometimes it isn't even like a roller coaster. Sometimes it's like that heat map on the right, and it's just a bunch of squiggles that you go around in circles. And quite often, if you don't like authentically let people know who you are, or say like, yeah, I'm struggling, then you will absolutely fucking torture yourself, because you will go round that loop and around that loop. And one of the ways out is to disclose how you're really feeling. And it's what I want to do today in the moment, like 3.5 years on from the bereavement that fucked me up last night. 3.5 years later, man, and it's still hitting us. And the reason being is, it's like something that I hadn't really even spoken to my partner about until last night. Every day, because the way I speak, the banter that me and Brian used to have, and the way we could make each other laugh like no other, how he got us, how I got him, how we understood each other, how we would speak to each other most days on the phone, even if it's just to like do a mad Chewbacca impression and then hang up. Especially, I love doing that when he was in the car with work and he had clients with him, which he didn't always like, but he always thought it was hilarious. You do shit like that to me when I was in public. It was just part of it. Makes us smile still to this day. It's the knowing that that's never going to happen again, ever. That's not happening again, and I'm trying to accept that. Like, that's hard to accept, though, isn't it? Yeah, it's just hard to accept. So the stages of grief, as I say, are more like this one here on the right. Squiggly motherfucking lines cycling between depression, anger, bargaining, denial, and acceptance, and they're never in order. And you think you've accepted it, and you're moving on, and you're looking at the graph on the left and thinking, yes, I'm there. And then you just go bang, straight back through the floor. And I just refuse to pretend that we're not, like, certainly as men, like, suffering with this shit. I mean, there's people in the thread as well saying that, like, they've never, like, sort of really faced what's happened and stuff. And I want to step up for you as well. Like, I want to show you that, like, a lot of people perceive me as being very strong and all that, and I am. Absolutely am. I know that about myself. I have a bomb-proof head, and part of that is being honest. And part of that is being able to do this when I could cry any minute, because I know that a lot of people who talk about this mental health stuff are full of fucking shit. They're like, guys, this is how I fixed myself, and fucking guys, fucking guys. And like, dude, like, a lot of these things, it's never going to be over, man. And the pain never leaves. We just learn to cope. And that's still really powerful, man. And in some respects, I don't want the pain to fully leave, because it kind of, like, it's weird and fucked up, but it just reminds us of, like, he's still here, you know. I and I know he's not. It's just like, I would speak to him most days, and now I can't. And it just got us. It's getting us now, and I just don't want this to be real, but it is, and I have to accept it. So part of my acceptance is doing this and just making it real. 3.5 years later, I fucking miss him so much. Yeah, I think that's all I want to say. I would take your comments and that, but like, I think the best thing I can do is just get a bit of self care down. And I think maybe it's a night's sleep, and we'll see. I don't know what I need yet. Well, I do. I want to speak to Brian, but I can't. So I'm going to start with a bath and nice walk with the dogs, and just see where we'll go from there. And hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow. If I don't, I'll let you know. And maybe I'll need a day, or maybe I'll need some more time, and I'll take it because I'm over the guilt and everything else, But yeah, I hope that, like, you find this valuable, that it's happening now and it's not some kind of like fucking abstract thing. We're all human beings, and yeah, I just wanted to show up for you like you show up for me. So I have. See you later. And don't worry about it. I'm fine. This is part of being fine. So this isn't something you should worry about. This is real and authentic and normal. And we should normalize this. And that's why I'm here. Because we have to normalize this shit, especially as men. So, lads, to you, fucking, I know people say talk, please talk about it and that. And sometimes, like, it's really the hardest thing you'll do is make that first step, but just refer yourself to Cruise or whatever it is and start the process. It's the reason I've got the tools that I can sit here and do this, because of Cruise Bereavement Care and how much they really helped. So, yeah, off to the bath, have a dog walk, change my clothes, have a shave, do all the self-care things I know to do, and then get this uploaded and hopefully just crack on, get a good night's sleep tonight. All the best to you, I. See you later.